For some hot Baltimore sports talk, catch the Purple Pride Sports Show with Bill West. Mornings on Saturday mornings from 9 to 11 and Monday evenings from 7 to 8 on Q, 1370 AM. Welcome back to Inside PressBox. This is just one short week removed from the Ravens' second trip to the Super Bowl, this time against the NFC Conference winners, San Francisco 49ers. Joining us is Gary Stein, and now we dig into how this game will be played out. And Gary, you'll be the guy in the PA in the press box, right, announcing the game, the play-by-play, so to speak, or the blow-by-blow, to all the men and women in there in the press box. How do you see this game going before you do that play-by-play?
You know, I think it's hard to pick against the Ravens at this point. I mean, the momentum that they've built up through the end of the regular season and the postseason, and more importantly, the changes that they've made to get the momentum. I mean, this isn't just some miracle. This is a combination of building blocks that have been put together at the end of the season to make it happen. The revamped offensive line, the insertion of Bernard Pearson to the lineup more, the health of the defense, the dismissal of the former offensive coordinator. You know, these were all things that, you know, manifested themselves late in the season to what I think is make a new team, make a different team. It's like they got a whole bunch of free agents at the end of the year, and now they plugged them in, and here they go. So, you know, I'm not going to sit here and dissect X's and O's. It's too early to do that anyway. But I think that in 10 years from now, when we read back about this season, there's no way that Ray Lewis is going to have a loss at the end of his career. There's just too much karma and too much actual physical infrastructure that has been built up by the Ravens.
That is the spiritual way to look at this game. In the actual play-by-play of the game, is there any chance that the San Francisco 49ers speed, the speed at which they play the game, could present the Ravens with problems?
Yeah, I mean, their quarterback, Colin Kaepernick, is certainly one of a kind when it comes to that. I don't know that he had a better year than RG3. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that, but I think he's more built to last. So yes, of course they're going to, look, it's all about matchups in the NFL. It's not a marathon. It's 16 sprints. And each sprint is different because your opponent is different. So your matchups are different. So certainly what may have worked against the Patriots and the Broncos and the Colts before that may not necessarily work against this unit.
Meaning
and
two stationary quarterbacks.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
This is a different kind of cat. I just feel that the Ravens have the experience to overcome that. With 2 weeks, I think they'll be able to prepare. You know, another building block, Dean Pease, has actually been one of the unsung heroes of this team. He made some adjustments.
He's my unsung hero this year.
And so, yes, I think they're going to figure that out. But it's going to be a challenge. I mean, you look at the two teams, they have different personnel, but they're built the same way. At the top, the coach with the same kind of coach. It's going to be a great matchup.
Everybody is paying attention to Ray Lewis, and of course, he's a certain Hall of Famer. There's probably one guy in this game for the Baltimore Ravens who's also playing his last game, and that's Matt Burke. Very different than Ray Lewis. Your thoughts about a guy like that? He's never played in the big game.
You know, yeah, and he almost did back in '98 when he was with Minnesota, and they ended up missing that field goal, and Atlanta went to the Super Bowl. You know, he's very under the radar. A lot of people will look at him and say that his best years were behind him, and I'm certain they absolutely were, although I didn't see him play in Minnesota. But he's a guy that is cerebral. He's a bit undersized, but he's tough. He actually, when you think about it, is one of the symbols of what the Ravens are. They may not have the elite talent that other teams may have, but they have a certain toughness about them. They have a certain fortitude about them that's hard to coach and sometimes even harder to see. You can't coach it. You can't teach it. You have to either have it or you don't. And I think Matt Burke personifies that.
Talk a little bit about, because I always have respected your knowledge of football, John Harbaugh in all of this. He's been the guy stirring the whole thing up. And, you know, whether Bisciotti made him get rid of Cam Cameron or whatever, he's the guy that's put this all together, and he's got his team playing its best football at the right moment.
And I still hear, or heard, I should say, late in the season, and I can somewhat understand it because they were struggling, people calling for John Harbaugh's head after he had led them to
I'd never heard that, but
well,
go ahead.
had led them to 4 consecutive playoffs, and now this year 5. Look, let me tell you something. I take the opposite I take the opposite track with John Harbaugh. A lot of people criticize him for his collegiate type of mentality. I think it's refreshing. It's different, okay? He's got that team. He's got that team, and he's got it in his way. And the way that he does it is with a rah-rah type of collegiate atmosphere, and I think it works for that bunch.
All right,
so I give him kudos.
Give me a score.
Well, I'm not going to be right. Ravens 27, San Francisco 23.
All right. Gary Stein,
Always a pleasure.
Good, continued good luck with Studio 83. One of these times we have you on here, we'll talk about that.
I appreciate it.
All right. We'll be back to wrap things up right after this, so don't go away. Inside PressBox is brought to you in part by Glen Burnie Transmission, your dealer alternative for transmission repairs. Save hundreds of dollars off dealers' prices. Financing and free towing are available. Call Mark at GBT today and ask for the PressBox special for more savings.